Nick Fuentes says that there is no other similar group like the Jewish Federation. You don't know how many Irish Americans supported the IRA. You know how many Mexican organizations have Latino congresses.
Listen,
Nick Fuentes
is a conversation about Nick Fuentes and defending America first.
And I am allowed to bring up. Excuse me.
We are not talking about Jewish
allowed to bring up his appearance when he wants white Americans to rule America.
Piers Morgan attacks Nick Fuentes along with woke Rabbi Shmuley as this supporter of Nick Fuentes defends him in this heated debate, as Piers Morgan accuses Nick Fuentes of being an anti-Semite before this supporter fires back at Piers Morgan and blows up on woke Rabbi Shmuley's blatant lies. Let's make America first again and get right in.
Has a growing number of followers, a growing amount of influence. The more people have tried to cancel him, the more his views have become more widely disseminated and the more popular he seems to have got. What do you feel about this? And what do you think should be done about it?
Nick Fuentes is not MAGA. He's MAGGIT. He trades in being a subhuman, mentally and conspiracy-minded, Neanderthal knuckle-dragger. He is utterly ignorant. He knows no history. And his MAGA is Make America German. Amen. He is just using a Hitlerian playbook. He says that Hitler is his hero. There's a lot of similarities, of course. You become famous by targeting Jews. He's not anti-Israel. He's an anti-Semite. He's a Holocaust denier. Hitler traded an anti-Semitism beginning in 1921-22 because it was the way to become the most famous. History has shown if you hate the Jews, Jews are news. So when you ask how did he become so famous, it is specifically his anti-Semitism. The question is he transactionally anti-Semitic or is he ideologically anti-Semitic? I think it's both. But the way he speaks about blacks, that blacks should all be returned to slavery, and that if you go to a black neighborhood, you're going to be stabbed in the neck, that they're all murderers. We've seen this, of course, with Hitler, who wouldn't even shake Jesse Owens' hands when Jesse Owens dominated the 1936 Olympics, winning 4 gold medals. But Fuentes is playing with fire because in the same way the Nazi movement cultivated hatred they could no longer contain, you have Tucker Carlson saying openly that Nick Fuentes is gay, which I couldn't care less. I have a gay brother. But Ernst Röhm, who was the head of the SA, was killed by Hitler in large part because he was gay. And at some point, Fuentes' followers are going to turn on him because just like Hitler didn't look Aryan in the slightest, neither does Fuentes. He's not this white Norwegian Aryan Ubermensch Superman. He's actually a short, weird guy, kind of like the way Hitler was. He has all these weird tics. He's famous because hatred sells, and hatred towards the Jews sells. And when you come along and you stoke those fires of such incendiary racism against blacks, against Jews, it's going to turn on you. And I think Fuentes is really at risk from his own people. I'm never going to touch him. I wish him a long life and increasing marginalization and invisibility. But I think that his own MAGGIT movement is going to turn on him.
All right, Richie Black, I can see you pulling some faces there, so you can respond.
Yeah, well, I lost count, honestly. I mean, I lost count of how many lies that was just admitted. Where do we begin? Obviously, Rabbi Shmuley is part of the tone-deaf majority who are more than likely the cause of the rise of Nick Fuentes. When you start off the conversation with lobbying insults, first and foremost, and mentioning something about his height and his looks, you're completely neglecting the fact that at this point, and in my generation in particular, we see this as an emergency. We don't care about what he looks like. Mentioning that Hitler killed Strom because he was homosexual, which is not true. That's obviously a very complicated thing. Or the Jesse Owens statement, which, again, I believe Jesse Owens made a statement that Hitler actually called him to congratulate him, and the president of the U.S. at the time did not. So food for thought there. But this is a cheap tactic, and it's one that's been overly used over and over. And I really want to warn people like Rabbi Shmuley and anybody who uses this tactic, because ultimately what you're doing, what you're forcing people to do, is to de-radicalize this movement, de-radicalize these words. When you lobby these words, anti-Semitism, and you say, well, you're not allowed at the table unless you're if you're an anti-Semite. Well, you're putting it on us to first de-radicalize what it means to be an anti-Semite so we get a spot at the table. Nick Fuentes is correcting an imbalance in the conservative movement that's been going on for 20 plus years. He's pointing out the obvious flaws that we need to pay attention to pull away from foreign influence and control to become a sovereign nation once again. He's never said anything about putting blacks back in chains. And, if you're going to go off of clip editing and then sensationalism, obviously he's very sensational right now, you're being intellectually dishonest. You're being...
Well, let's play a clip. Let me play a clip of Fuentes, and we can discuss this after we've watched it.
What are all of these groups? Who are these people? What are they actually? The World Jewish Congress, the Jewish Leadership Conference, the Jewish Federations of North America. What are we to make of this? This is totally unique. There is no other group of people that does this. I'm Italian, Mexican, and Irish. Is there anything comparable for any of these groups? Is there a World Irish Congress chaired by billionaires and bankers?
No, I mean, that strikes me as pretty openly anti-Semitic, because of course there are plenty of groups around the world for all sorts of nationalities and religious and ethnic groups. Of course there are. We all know that. So the idea that somehow this is unique to Jewish people is preposterous. The guy is clearly anti-Semitic, isn't he? I mean, there's no even pretends to not be.
No, he's not. He's not. I'm gonna jump in again. I'm sorry, he's not. You're taking a clip out of context. Here's the thing.
What was the out of context?
Well, first and foremost, I'm saying you have to really listen.
Well, hang on, don't, Rabbi Shmuley, let me just handle this.
Rabbi Shmuley, you're
hang on,
representative for
Richie
your
Black,
side.
I'm very curious.
They did a real disservice.
Hang on. When you say, Richie Black, when you
that.
say we took it out of context, explain how that was taken. It seemed pretty straightforward context to me.
I'll tell you why. Because, first of all, you're taking it out of context because you have to take in the full scope of everything Nick says, not only in one of his shows, but over the course of time. His fans, the people that are loyal to him, the people that are pushing for America first, these aren't people that just showed up yesterday. And this is where you really lose out. Your negligence to acknowledge the fact that his fans, his constituents, have been following him for 10 years.
What's that got to do with his anti-Semitism?
Hitler had followers. Mussolini had followers. Stalin had
followers. I'm curious. I will, Jake, I will bring you in, and Ben, I will bring you in. But just, Richie, just to be clear, you said that clip was taken out of context. I can't understand how it was taken out of context. It was very straightforward. What was the out of context?
First and foremost, what I'm suggesting is what you're lobbying as anti-Semitism. You're suggesting that Nick hates all Jews? Is that what you're suggesting? What does it mean anymore to be anti-Semitic? Because
if you say you openly love Adolf Hitler, you probably don't care that he murdered millions of Jews.
I would definitely argue if your assumption is that somebody who has any adoration for Adolf Hitler is obviously anti-Semitic, then you yourself have not dived into history and or looked at the subjugation or the persecution of those.
I can't believe we're hearing this. Of course
you can't believe it, because this is a new age. America must rise to the occasion to address the issue of people like you. This is the new age, and it's coming full speed ahead.
Wait. You have told so many lies. Number one, Adolf Hitler never called Jesse Owens. That is a total fabrication. Wait, that is a total fabrication. Number two, when Nick Fuentes. No. Let me speak, please. Number two, when Nick Fuentes says that there is no other similar group like the Jewish Federation, you don't know how many Irish Americans supported the IRA. You know how many Mexican organizations have Latino congresses.
Listen,
Nick Fuentes is as ignorant as you.
And defending America first.
And I am allowed to bring up. Excuse me.
We are not talking about Jewish Americans.
I am allowed to bring up his appearance when he wants white Americans to rule America.
You're talking over each other. Don't talk over each other, please.
No, he won't let anyone speak.
Okay.
If you love Hitler,
if you both talk at once, we can't hear either of you. We can't hear either if you talk at.
Well, folks, the biggest question about this whole video is whether or not Nick Fuentes is an actual anti-Semite. I mean, Piers Morgan was quick to jump at it just because Nick Fuentes had questions about certain of these groups, and I'm going to show you in a second because I did a little research on ChatGPT, but he's asserting that just because he said this means he hates Jews. I mean, he's never explicitly said that. He says he has Jewish friends. He's on the south side of Chicago. He's around black people all the time. The same stuff that Rabbi Shmuley is pushing is the same mantra. It's the same hate. It's the same whatever. If you think of this, oh, you're an anti-Semite, you hate this. So we're just going to discount everything that you say. Literally everything that you say. But this supporter of Nick Fuentes is exactly right. We can criticize whoever we want. And this is one of the biggest problems with Israel is if you say anything about them, you're an anti-Semite. But the biggest thing is they are trying to say Nick Fuentes is an anti-Semite because he questions these groups that exist and asserts that there's no others. Now, Piers Morgan wants to say that's foolish. Of course we know that there are. Well, let's look. So I went over to ChatGPT and checked out all the three groups that Nick Fuentes mentioned and asked it if there are akin groups of the same thing in Italian, Mexican, and Irish. So let's check out what it is, or what it says. The World Jewish Congress, its mission is to foster the unity and represent the interest of the Jewish people, promote the religious, cultural, social, and communal lives of Jews globally, defend their rights, and advocate on their behalf to governments, international bodies, interfaith groups, and civic institutions. That's kind of a weird goal, if you ask me. An international group that advocates on their behalf to two governments, two international bodies, interfaith groups, and civic institutions. All right, so there's that one. The next one is the Jewish Leadership Conference. All right, so the Jewish Leadership Conference is its annual gathering, more precisely a summit for Jewish intellectuals, civic leaders, thinkers, and supporters. I don't think they have something like this for like Mexicans or the Irish thinkers. All right, because, well, I couldn't find one. It's hosted by this fund. The purpose of the conference is to address what organizers describe as the major challenges facing the Jewish people in America, Israel, and globally. All right, and the last one. What is the Jewish Federations of North America? The Jewish Federations of North America is a continental umbrella organization for numerous other federations across North America. It is a nonprofit. What does it do? Raises and distributes large-scale funding among its networks and annually allocate billions of dollars to fund social welfare, humanitarian efforts, education, community services, and support for Jewish lives. So those are the three groups. You can go back, you can read the list, see the rest. Now, let's go and let's see what it says. Basically, are there other groups? And I think you're going to see a little bit of a difference. All right, so here's Italian. National Italian American Foundation. Its mission is to serve as a resource for Americans of Italian descent, provide Italian heritage, culture, and strengthen ties between the U.S. and Italy. All right, maybe kind of the same. But let's see. The largest and oldest national organization of people of heritage. It works to preserve traditions, support community, education efforts, and Italian American heritage. Established in 1922, it promotes Italian American heritage, but also builds community through charitable or educational, culture, and civic projects across many local chapters. Now, it doesn't talk about billions of dollars. It doesn't talk about we need to fight against Italian hate. We don't need to fight against discrimination. We don't need to silence people and censor people who are talking bad about Italians. There doesn't seem to be any of that in there. So they're not dealing with billions of dollars. They're not dealing in defending Italians from all of their attackers. And it's not talking about life like specifically, how do we improve life solely for Italian Americans? It talks about heritage, preserving their culture and all that. But I mean, if you ask me, there's a difference between the two. So let's go to the Mexicans. League of United Latin American Organizations, one of the oldest and largest Hispanic American civil rights organizations. Its mission includes advocating education, health, civil rights, housing, representation for Latino communities. A major nonprofit, nonpartisan Latino advocacy group dedicated to civil rights, social justice, reducing inequality, and promoting civic power in the U.S. Organizations like served as local, regional community advocates for Mexican American civil rights. So there's a lot in there for civil rights. Okay, let's go down to the Irish. For Irish Americans, there are fewer larger umbrella federation style groups, but there are heritage and cultural organizations that celebrate Irish culture, history, and community, for example, through festivals, so forth. Some clergy, but do we really think that these are on the same scale as these other Jewish communities? They're not dealing billions of dollars. They're not directly trying to fight off a wave of, Irish hate or Italian hate, and, they're not worldwide. If you ask me, there seems to be a difference in these groups that celebrate the culture, the heritage, the identity, and simply, want to, keep that around versus we are an active network with billions of dollars backing funding that advocates for us to talk to international governments, institutions, the biggest powers. Like, you didn't see that in the list of, the Mexicans and the Irish and all that. Like, you can see a difference in between the two. So if you ask me, Nick Fuentes has a point. These are not the same groups. They are not the same thing. When you look at like the Muslim Brotherhood, are we going to say like, oh no, they're just a group that supports civil rights and heritage and all this? No, we know the Muslim Brotherhood wants to make everything Islam. It wants Sharia law. It's actively, investing money to basically corrupt America into a non-Christian country. Like, that's not the same thing as some of these groups that are just trying to like, oh, we're just trying to keep our heritage alive. No, there's an active, different purpose and goal towards everything they are doing on a completely different level. So if you ask me, those groups are a lot different than what Nick Fuentes mentioned, and I don't see them being exactly the same. Let me know down in the comments, do you think these are the same groups? Do you think they're similar? Do you think they're really, really different? Let me know your thoughts down below and what you thought about what Piers Morgan, Rabbi Shmuley had to say attacking Nick Fuentes and what this Nick Fuentes supporter had to say defending him in this heated debate. Thanks again, like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.